Hey everyone, Father Andrew Dickinson, your pastor at Sacred Heart. A little parish update and a couple things. Talk to you about the Bazaar. It's been over almost 3 weeks now since our COVID-reduced Bazaar for 2020. And just a little bit about Mass and things like that in COVID times. Of course, I always know my prayers for you, and maybe if you're someone who's still at home in these days, know of my prayers especially for you, and looking for that time we can meet one another in God's good timing. So a lot of people curious about how the 2020 Bazaar went. We made a good effort at it, and I think the most important thing is we're over 2 weeks from it, and we've had no reports, I could be wrong, but no reports of anyone becoming sick, whether of those who volunteered and worked, like Loretta in the relish room, or the Zens in the kitchen, that no one got sick amongst those working together. They all did a great job of keeping their masks on in those close quarters where they couldn't do social distancing, and being careful of that. So really grateful to all of them in their efforts. Many other people that I won't remember to name in this video, but wonderful people that way. So grateful that we're over 2 weeks out of the Sacred Heart Bazaar, and no reports of anyone getting sick with COVID from the Bazaar. So that's great. Other numbers from the Bazaar that people might want to know about. We served 550 meals, and so of course that's down, but it's about what we planned for. We kind of had to estimate between the Zens, Brenda Arts, who of course is that matriarch of the Bazaar, kind of had to plan and think, how much will actually come and use it. So 550 total meals. 290 of those were carry-out, so glad that many of you made that use of the carry-out, and most of you doing it seem like you're eating in groups, with maybe your family at home, or the people you're in regular contact with, where you feel safe to be with them, and so grateful that you did that. We had 50 meals go on delivery to our homebound parishioners, those who can't get out. We reached out to them ahead of time and made arrangements to bring them a meal if they wanted. And special thanks to the Erlockers, Dale and Linda, who headed up that great effort. We also had then 180 people that came and dined in, with around 30 children that came and dined in with those dine-in people, getting us to around that 550 mark on our meals. But again, it was safe, but also I think it provided people some community, something to do. One of the things we talked about with the desire for a Bazaar is it's not a matter of money or the bottom line. It's a matter of giving us something to do, and to try and do in a safer way, but something still to do. And we had bingo, and that came off well as well. Again, safely and carefully, but people had a good time. Although, you're never quite happy if your card doesn't get a bingo. But of course, we didn't do midway or anything like that. We did have a silent auction and the raffle, which some of you maybe saw on Facebook. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing to try and put it on Facebook, and it wasn't always the cleanest broadcast, but it was a fun little touch, I think, for the Parish Bazaar. So just another little note then about Masses for people coming back to the Holy Mass. Just want to encourage you, you're probably aware that cases are going up in South Dakota, and hospitalizations have gone up by quite a bit. Gosh, it was back in August when there's maybe 70 COVID patients hospitalized in South Dakota. Now that has increased by nearly six-fold, right? So just under 420 people in the hospital. So that's a six-fold increase in these weeks. We need to be careful. People ask me, will we mandate masks at Mass? And I'm not going to mandate masks at Mass because I never want to kick someone out of Mass. But I do want to encourage you to wear a mask at Mass, and to never feel like maybe that you stick out if you are wearing a mask at Mass. We do keep masks available in the entryways if you want to grab one on the way in. So want to be a mask-friendly zone in that regard. And, if you're someone maybe who hasn't worn a mask, I just encourage you to consider that there are some people that have told me that they felt uncomfortable coming because they were worried about how many weren't wearing masks. Now, of course, even if you are wearing a mask, you have pretty good protection from things, even if someone else doesn't. But maybe just think about that, concern of would you want to have those people in church or not in church? And And I want people receiving the graces of praying in community, the graces of making a holy confession, a holy communion. So I want to try and make these things as available as we can. Do also keep a good check on yourself in terms of your health. And so if you have a fever, you have runny nose, persistent cough, things like that, make sure you're going to a doctor to get that checked out. And if you do have a fever, God bless you, it would not be a good time to come to Mass. And so keep track of that. And that would be true in COVID times or non-COVID times, right? So keep track of yourself in that way. Thanks be to God, we haven't had any reports of any sort of COVID outbreaks or anything at Sacred Heart, but let's keep it that way. Let's try and keep that going. We need our celebration of the Mass. We need to gather as one, as the body of Christ, but let's make sure we do it in a safer way. And then for those of you that are still at home, still trying to keep that live stream going, occasionally we have technical hiccups, and there's not a staff on hand to fix a technical hiccup if it happens in the moment. But if you are praying at home, whether with the Bishop's Mass on TV, on YouTube, whether praying with our Mass on Facebook, I really encourage you to try and keep a Sunday routine as a part of things, to clean up, to put on Sunday clothes, to encourage your children, maybe even to kneel, right, and pray in your living room. The carpet might be softer than our kneelers, and certainly there's more room than the pews. But to try and make your prayer as bodily as possible, just as our prayer at Mass is a bodily prayer with standing, kneeling, sitting, those different Catholic calisthenics, those markings of ourselves. Do those as you watch at home, as you pray at home, because if you do it in that way, of course, it'll help you to get more involved in the heart of the Mass in that way. And to make sure you have a spiritual communion prayer on hand for when the communion rite comes. Well, I'm Father Andrew Dickinson, and that's just a little update of things here at the eve of November at Sacred Heart. God bless you. I pray for you, and we hope we can all be gathered again in the church in God's good time.